Welcome to Cyber-Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. Today we are continuing our discussion on Captain America Civil War. It's me, Josh. I'm also joined by Bob, Matthew, Heather, and Darren, and we are continuing our discussion now. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe, and as always, enjoy the show.
And my question from a power standpoint is, if Ant-Man was shrunken and holding on to Cap's shield the whole time, why did Peter's spider sense only react when he started to grow?
Wait,
what is the threshold for Peter's spider sense to consider something? Scott was on his shield the whole time.
Yeah,
like when Spider-Man grabbed the shield and jumped over to the car and said, "Hi guys," Lang was on the shield the whole time. He had to have been shrunken down, ready to, pop into action. And I'm wondering why his spider sense didn't inform him of that the moment he took Cap's shield.
Probably because he wasn't a threat at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's my question. What is the threshold for spider sense deeming something
that's
a threat?
A whole nother.
I know that's another thing. I nitpick about those things because
that is a very interesting rabbit hole.
I think that if Ant-Man had tried to attack him, he would have sensed it, but he wasn't.
Miniature Man on Shield doesn't.
When we get to Spider-Man, I feel like they nerfed his spider sense in Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. I feel like his spider sense is actually very minimal. It's not like Tobey Maguire's spider sense or even Andrew Garfield's, where it's like they did visual shots of him detecting something and stuff like that. It was like, you don't really
like the hair raises on the neck kind of thing. Yeah.
But anyway,
it gives that in Infinity Wars. That's when
but to get back on the whole Spider-Man and Black Panther thing, I don't know if anybody else had anything more to say. I mean, this kind of goes in conjunction with the big buildup was, and yes, they brought back Ant-Man, which he was obviously in the last movie that we did the last episode on. But it's like he goes to see Spider-Man. Out of all the people he could go see, it's not like he went to Jessica Jones or Luke Cage or Iron Fist, which were already existing and existing. He went to find this guy that he found on YouTube and figured out, you don't get how that is. But anyway, I just didn't know, and this leads up to the big airport battle, because that was ultimately when he went to go find Spider-Man. So, again, just, wanted to get, I don't know if anybody's got any other thoughts before we kind of move on to the next topic in terms of Black Panther and Spider-Man.
I guess just going back to whoever brought up the point of like the Spider-Man and Ant-Man were the only two not invested in the actual argument. Yeah, I think I really like how Spider-Man is during that airport battle, and he's still got the he's still starstruck by Cav, even though he's supposed to be, fighting against him right now. And I love that one brief interaction, you got Heart Kid, where are you from? And, Queens, Brooklyn, that was I think very cute. And it just, the pure motivations, I like when they highlight those, that there are, good intentions do exist in this world, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate when they shine a little bit of light on those in the midst of all these chaotic battle scenes. Like there is a little bit of, altruistic motivation.
I did appreciate that banter too with the Queens Brooklyn thing, because, I worked in New York, so I got firsthand look at the kind of friendly rivalry between the two. And, if you're part of the five boroughs or if you're Brooklyn, and the tough ones believe they're in Brooklyn, but the other ones think they're in Queens. And there's just, they don't hate each other, but they're still rivals. And so that also got, because I was watching it in the area, I was watching it in New York. I saw the movie the first time.
Oh.
And,
But they
so-
recognized it in each other in somebody, and I thought that was kind of a cute little touch. Anyway, just a little nod to that.
I think
the
the banter and the dialogue throughout this movie, again, this is the Russo brothers, and I think they just excel where a lot of the other writers just can't for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because this movie was like the perfect storm and then they, have a lot of opportunities for good writing. I feel like the humor was well placed in this movie too. So I like the banter a lot throughout this movie. And the dialogue as well. It's just, especially in that Spider-Man and Tony scene, even though I feel like he deserved better, it was a really well written scene when they're talking in the bedroom.
But actually contains, I think that most people will agree one of the best ad-lib lines in cinema history is the "I love you, I know" moment from Empire Strikes Back. But I would say the second is Tony saying, "I'm going to sit there so you move the leg," because that was not scripted. He was supposed to sit on the couch, and Tom Holland forgot and left his leg there. And so Robert Downey Jr. just said that, and they loved it, so they kept it in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wanted to go a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
One more thing. At the end of that scene, he tries to stop Tony by webbing his hand to the door. And then Tony says, they come to an agreement, and then Tony says, get me out of this. Now, Peter begins to say, "Oh yeah, let me get the." Does he have a web solvent ready to go? Like, is that a thing?
No, I have no idea. They never explain it, and I suspect that's why they do that.
In the comic books, it degrades after a certain number of hours or something like that. Yeah.
The other thing he could have been going for is
scissors.
Go get the scissors.
I don't know. The tensile strength is probably a bit too high for scissors.
Yeah, I think it's more the wire cutters.
Yeah,
Could you imagine if scissors
his neck into his Macintosh computer?
Spider-Man, like if it was just a pair of scissors that could defeat Spider-Man's web.
The wire cutters. Let me get my toolbox, my heavy duty Black & Decker toolbox, so that I can remove this.
Aunt May's like, "What's going on up here?"
Yeah,
exactly.
Like a Tom and Jerry cartoon with all the sound effects going through the door.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about Bucky Barnes, because I mean, he's technically, it's his, what he did, what he didn't do. He's kind of the whole thing. Other than the Sokovia Accords, like the overall plot line and what kind of drives at least Captain America, obviously.
A lot of reactions from his.
Yeah, Bucky's character. Yeah. We learn more about his brainwashing and, the book that Zemo gets to activate him as the, a sleeper agent, whatever that is. I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that. And the question here was, Captain America is obviously trying to protect Bucky, and that's kind of his overall motivation for everything else is you feel like is Captain America, is he just protecting a friend, or is he ignoring reality? But kind of wanted to go into the Bucky Barnes.
We kind of talked about that already.
Yeah.
I know. I wanted to just talk about it more, and I could edit this out if I need to. So
I think he has a lot of guilt straight up from losing Bucky at the end of World War II. Yeah. He just feels either he could have done more, or he just has straight up regrets that he feels he can
be above the law.
Well, he can atone for or make up for in some way to Bucky directly, not even considering anybody else's needs. Again, kind of a Zemo thing. Don't worry about anybody else's situation. I have a goal here.
I think it's one of those things for Captain that it's one of the areas of his life where he is still stuck in the past completely. Like he is stuck in the past with when it comes to Bucky.
And that's why I said he's selfish right from the first movie, his own first movie. In every appearance after that, he's becomes increasingly selfish, and he's probably the most selfish in this one. He can't let Peggy go. He can't let Bucky go. And it comes to a point, it's like, all right, dude, we get it. You're sad, but like life sucks and then you die. Like, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. But like everybody goes through stuff, and Captain America likes to, I don't know where the entitlement comes from. I know it's written and it's fake and none of it really matters. But at the same time, it's like, if this were a person in real life, I'd be like, you need to like move on just a little bit or get some therapy at this point, because
Therapy.
which later he does
Well,
get therapy, which
yeah.
is great.
But it's like
Yeah,
even
I mean, you
even at
definitely
Endgame, he's like, "Well, you just need to move on." It's like, well, why didn't you do that? Prior to the snap.
Well, at that point, that's because of the snap is probably how we learned to do that. Because at that point, there was nothing we could do but move on.
What I meant to mention is with the Bucky Barnes thing, and I didn't know what you thought about it. It was one of the points I was going to make. Is do you feel like that in Captain America, and obviously Winter Soldier, did you feel like, I mean, I kind of did, but do you feel like Cap's dedication to Bucky was, that they set that up, obviously through 2 movies, that he would go to those lengths to protect his friend and not, I mean, because it wasn't like, hey, Buck, we still need to take you in. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you need to see justice done. It's more like I'm going to protect him at all costs, even when they were like, going to arrest him and stuff like that. I don't know. I didn't know if, and maybe my point is moot.
I still think that I still think that if it wasn't required for the movie, I think that Cap might have actually taken Bucky back to be imprisoned.
Yeah.
When he, instead of going into hiding, but for the purpose of making sure Zemo's plan worked, they had to do it in this movie where they would give him the overarching theme. He had to protect Bucky because Bucky was innocent. Bucky didn't belong in jail because he's not the one who bombed the summit, the Sokovia Accords signing. He wasn't there, and he knew that he wasn't there. And Bucky was his proof, but we can't do anything about that because we got to put him in jail. So I think that that's the biggest problem I have with this movie is that Zemo's plan relies completely on luck and unrealistic movement from the characters involved, even from the very beginning when he's making plans for a summit that he shouldn't know about.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that summit be like public news though? Like, hey, the UN's meeting to talk about these accords. I mean, granted,
they don't say when it was made public.
Sure.
The first scene when Zemo crashes into the apartment where the Russian guy is,
Mhm.
and he's beginning his plan.
And before the Marvel splash scene you're talking about. Before the Marvel
the scene. No, when Zemo breaks into that guy's apartment. That happens before the scene where the Sokovia Accords are introduced to the Avengers. There's no way it's been released to the public yet because even the Avengers haven't heard of it. If the possibility of the Accords had been released to the public, then the Avengers would know about it. But when Ross comes in, he's introducing them for the first time to the Accords. So there's no way everyone knew about a summit happening. So there's no way Zemo should have known. But he was making plans for it. This is a perfect time to enact my plan. All these world leaders, including the King of Wakanda, is going to be at the UN. So I got to plant a bomb, and I gotta put on a costume to look like Bucky so that I can frame him for a bomb job there. He didn't know there was going to be a summit. Why is he already enacting the plan? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
And there was no way he would know that they would do this. That Cap would take Bucky over here. There was no way he could.
Maybe he's just good at improv.
I think Zemo is just bobbing and weaving with the circumstances, and he just has thought out and enough contingencies where he can go, oh, I was gonna bomb a subway, but now this is a bigger target now that I'm aware of it, and I don't even care if T'Challa's there. That wasn't my target. It was
which is a negative.
I agree. Sorry,
I wanted to ask a question, but go ahead, Josh. I
was just going to say I agree with you, Darren. I think that you're right, but they don't really explain it, and it just seems completely contrived. Like all of the events happen the way he planned it, and it's almost like, everything is happening the way I had foreseen.
We can never get away without a
I
Star
think
Wars
he's
reference.
just taking advantage of circumstances.
But no,
He's paying attention.
Narratively, I agree, Josh. The timeline doesn't add up for the movie.
Yeah.
Dad, you had a question you were going to ask.
Oh, I was just thinking about the summit when you guys were talking about the summit. And it was like, I remember when, so Black Widow goes up to King T'Challa and she's like, hey, I'm really sorry about Nigeria. And I was like, isn't he the king of Wakanda? Like, why is she apologizing? I mean,
No,
I
because
don't know.
No, she
the Wakandan
apologized.
force was in.
Yeah, they
Lagos
were-
at the
In
time.
I
Lagos.
see.
Yeah. It was
Oh,
his. It was
yeah.
his men that got it. That end up getting.
Oh,
hurt.
okay, got it.
Include-
How
including
convenient for the
perspective.
plot to blow up that one office.
That one floor of that one
That
office
one
where
floor that
Wakandans
happened
happened
to
to
be.
be.
It was a lot of
Yeah.
floors of that one office.
Yeah,
It
it was
was-
like
it was a
like
big
20
chunk of the
floors.
building.
It was pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a pretty good chunk
Darn.
of building.
No, there was one thing
But
that
yeah, it
I
was
thought,
convenient that that Wakandans happened to be in Lagos at the time. So
but there was one thing in the movie that I didn't completely. It's just a weird decision. It's not that they did anything wrong. Just something I noticed when Zemo talks to the housekeeper in the scene, and he's not letting her come in because she's not supposed to see the EMP bomb. But we as the audience don't know it's a bomb either. We have no idea what it is. But the camera pans over and shows the bomb, and the music has this suspenseful crescendo. And I was kind of thinking, like, why would they do that? Because we have no idea what it is. So why would you make it suspenseful when we're looking at it and we're like,
we're just
Well,
supposed to
he's
know it's something
obviously-
bad, Josh.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's something
Exactly.
bad.
That's the
Yeah.
We don't
reason.
even know what it is,
That's
but
the
it's
reason.
bad.
it just
Yeah,
seems strange to me.
They could have
No,
showed you a
because-
coffee mug and give you that music cue, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, "Well, that's some bad coffee. That's some bad coffee."
Yeah.
That is
It just seemed-
Oh, is it poison? Oh my gosh.
It's gonna do bad things.
Spider-Man. That's not coffee. That was symbiote Spider-Man. That's what it was.
It's important
Yeah,
to
this-
see that though,
Oh, go ahead.
because he delivers it. And like if that scene just happened and they didn't show the EMP at least for the 5 seconds that you see
Of
it,
course. Yeah.
you'd be like,
Yeah.
"What the hell?" So
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And what?
I guess I just
I
thought
would have
it
been
was
better.
weird that they would put in the suspenseful music because we didn't know what it was. We had no clue.
That's
It's
just-
in bold letters.
It was
saying
something
EMP
bad. The
on the
music lets you
side.
Yeah.
know something's bad. I would have thought it'd been
Labeled.
better when he's looking
Duct
at the
tape label.
laptop and it
Yeah,
says
big-
it
This
gets
is bad.
delivered.
This is bad.
I did notice one trope, I guess, in this movie, which
Just one?
is another. Well,
No, yeah,
there's
really.
another trope. Is that the heroes always figure out the plan just in time for the plan to happen. In this case, they were in the office after the arrest, and they're like, there was no way that they would know that this would happen, but now they knew. They arranged it so that Bucky would be right here, and then suddenly the power goes out, and Zemo starts doing his thing, with the words. It's just another thing that I noticed because it's one of those tropes that it's like, what are the odds that they would figure it out and explain it to the audience just in time?
sure.
Well, they're not going to have the UPS driver figure out that it's an EMP and not deliver it. Like
That's
that would be
true.
anticlimactic.
No, that's true.
To that point, it's also like in the Arkham Asylum game,
Yeah,
Batman's explaining like, well, he went down without a fight. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, clearly he wanted to be caught. They're just telling. I don't know. I think it's just you kind of have to.
It's a way of speeding the story
Yeah.
along with it.
You-
Because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
because the movie's so dense, they do have to do that a bit, I think.
yeah,
they
true.
I think it's
have
gotten
to
even
advance that and
worse.
push it through.
I mean, that's a whole concept we can take a side note on. I remember there was a meeting recently with I think it was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they were talking about. I think it was the two of them. They had done some new movie, and Matt Damon, and it was basically that when they make movies now, because of people streaming and binging and and the TikTok generation, everybody's 7 seconds. Of
Mhm.
attention span, they have to constantly the scripts are now written. Not that this one is. I was just pointing this out. Is scripts are written even more so now to recap the plot like 6 times. They said something like 4 to 6 times during the movie, and I think it's a little more subtle. But yeah, I agree with Heather. Is that I think in this movie, in Civil War, it's like. There was a lot going on, and I think that they had to take those little moments where they could to be like, oh yeah, and this is where we are right now. You know what I mean? And so I think that was a good idea. I wanted to move into the whole final fight, right? Because this is the big enchilada. We talked about.
Oh, there's so many good fight scenes in the whole movie. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the
motorcycle chase scene was probably the best vehicle, freeway chase scene since the French Connection. And
Yeah. Crossbones, hammer fists. Come on.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I think
I found it interesting that even though Crossbones is not called Crossbones in the movie,
No,
like
no.
only comic book people like us would know that he's called Crossbones. But if you watch it with subtitles, which I often do so that I can make sure to catch every word in subtitles, it does call him Crossbones.
Who calls him Crossbones? The subtitles in order
subtitles.
to
The
identify him speaking?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. They wouldn't say they wouldn't just call him
No figure or no character ever
name?
refers to him in dialogue as Crossbones, but you're saying that the
the
captioning
subtitles.
refers to him as Crossbones in order to identify who is speaking at
Oh,
Yeah.
that
yeah.
moment.
Okay.
And I would have thought that they would have called him by.
that's
I
very cool.
would have thought that the caption would have said Rumlow.
Yeah, well, that's
Because
true,
that's who
because
we know
that's
him
what he
as.
previously identified
Yeah,
as.
they
in the-
call him
I don't.
Renlaw.
I
They
don't
call
even
him
think I
Renlaw.
caught that.
Yeah.
I don't even think I caught that in the caption. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Well, what about other fight scenes, Matthew? Any favorite fight scenes out of this one?
I think the airport scene, I know that's the highlight of the movie, and we've already talked about that. I had a note that I think that's arguably the best fight scene in the entire MCU.
Until
Arguably.
Endgame.
Well, no,
I would
I
say
don't
the
know. I
fight
like
in Endgame when all the Avengers and when all the good guys and all the bad guys.
But this is in full sunlight.
yeah,
The other
this
one's
is
like in all night
yeah, it's all
shadows and
dark
like
and blown
everybody's
up.
a silhouette.
Yeah.
This one is like you get these characters full sunlight,
Yeah.
interacting
You
with each
get
other.
to see Ant-Man playing with the other superheroes
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they're action figures.
Well,
That was
that
kinda
Yeah,
the big thing though, like I think you were talking yesterday, Heather, when we were on the phone about what is fan service, and the airport scene is total fan service. When the
yeah.
two
all of it.
teams start walking towards each other and they're not stopping, and we're
That's
not
a-
either.
That is
And
comic
then
book
you-
cover. That is
that is-
double fold comic book cover situation right there.
I
Like,
think that's a
what he was saying.
that's a
yeah,
fold out cover.
It's the splash cover where it's
Exactly.
inside and it's actually like 4 pages
Yeah,
wide.
yeah.
That's what it is, and it is the perfect example.
Double spread.
That is comic book. That is fan service right there. But it was beautifully done. I love that airport.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the way the director chose certain framings, situations and framings, like the Ant-Man being on Hawkeye's tip of his arrow. That is straight out of a comic book cover.
Mhm.
Was it War Machine and Iron Man kind of back to back at certain times?
Yeah.
Very comic book. You could take a freeze frame of almost every moment of that fight at the airport, and you could find the direct comic book inspiration for what is happening on that, in that shot.
And that is really
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
And
appreciate that, even though I'm not a comic book person, but I can appreciate the people that can see that and
Yeah.
like, that
It's
was
one of those. If
that's
you
nicely
know, you're
done.
like,
Yeah.
there it is.
And I still love the writing in it too, like the banter between Black Widow and Hawkeye. Just this, are we still
Oh, yeah.
friends? And he says,
Yeah.
depends on how hard you hit me. 'Cause
Yeah.
he knows she's about to hit him. He knows there's
Yeah.
no way he's gonna block that. So
Although Wanda was pretty much Deus Ex Machina for almost every fight there. She kept.
she is one of the strongest.
Well, I know, but
entire-
the way they mapped out the fight, she basically, red energy whisked, like 3 people out of a situation where they were getting their ass handed to them, and like, hey, you're pulling your punches, and hey, you're doing that, and and she was just, she was being like the final arbiter of that moment in the fight, almost at least 3 times I counted, where it was like it was going one way or the other, and she made the deciding move.
Yeah, she did have to step in quite a bit for different people at different times. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Matthew, I saw you were about to say something.
Yeah, Matthew, you were going to say something.
I mean, I know we said up until Endgame. I don't know. I just like the airport fight, and to Darren's point, it is in full sunlight, and it's not as CGI reliant as the final fight in Endgame, which was, I mean, that was implied. You were going to get a final fight in Endgame. We didn't know we were going to get the airport scene really outside of the trailers in Civil War, which I think is why I like it so much. And everybody's really evenly matched. And I think there's more emotional strain on both sides that, you know, it's
well,
like,
because
oh,
you
wanna
do have
root
the
for
Team Iron Man,
Yeah.
Team Cap, you know, and these are all people that you like. They're all characters that you like. I mean, in some capacity, you know, you have, you know, you're invested in each of these characters, and so you're watching all of them fighting one
I mean,
another,
evenly
which is a
matched.
different. Yeah.
I'm sorry. You mentioned evenly matched, but then, you know, Scott does his Giant Man thing, and then Iron Man specifically says, "Does anybody else have any amazing powers they want to reveal?"
Or Iron Man says that.
And I specifically was thinking, well, yes, because Black Panther has a giant purple shockwave bubble that he can do that he's not doing.
That
didn't
hasn't
get
been
it.
invented yet.
No, I know. And then and Wanda can
Maybe
basically
that's why he invented it.
rewrite reality entirely within the radius of a
Wanda
small
wasn't on Iron
town.
Man's
So
side.
hey, you know.
So,
But Wanda isn't on Iron Man's side.
Well, that's true. That's true. He was looking
They
for
had to
his
rely on-
team to have.
They had to rely on Peter having seen a really old movie called The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that was cute. Yeah.
Yeah, they
I know.
weren't
He's like,
really
"How old
being
is this guy?"
truly.
He goes,
They weren't really being that strategic, really. I mean, they were beating on each other as a good comic book movie or comic book should, but they weren't being particularly strategic. And then if you jump forward to the final battle with Cap and Iron Man in that basement silo thing in in Siberia, there's that scene where he says, "Okay, Friday, analyze his fight pattern," and I'm like, wait a second. She's an advanced AI. Shouldn't she have been doing that the entire time behind the scenes and like adjusting the whole time? Like, why was he not even trying to win up until that point?
well, and that's so I wanted to bring that up because
now you want to analyze it.
We're moving into the point that I wanted to come up, which was the final fight, because I feel like that's
final
where
fight.
the final fight between Captain America, Bucky's there, obviously, right? And we're getting the three of them are fighting. And I feel like that's the fight that's really obviously the most personal, because at that point, Tony's found out that Bucky's you know, kill, you know, but so it shifts to now it's just
heartbreaking.
out where somebody's gonna like almost is gonna die from this. Like Iron Man was like, yeah, I don't care, you know, and he's like,
I mean, we were talking about people paying for their choices.
Right, but at this point now it's like we went from the airport scene, which is like, oh, you're pulling your punches. Oh, it's this. Are we friends? You know, I don't know. And they're all kind of just like playing around, but everybody's kind of sort of holding back ish, you know. And then in this one, it's like, we're just going to do, you know, just a flat out beat down fight. So I think that, you know, it became more emotional. And then obviously, my whole thing was that it was personal and not just ideological anymore. It wasn't just about Sokovia Accords or anything else. It was Iron Man was like, you know, the pain of his parents' death. He wanted to kill Bucky, and he's like, you know, and then Captain America's trying to defend him, and then Iron Man was just, he didn't even care. I mean, that really would have.
Yeah, and that was the linchpin moment. That was the linchpin moment in that fight was Iron Man said, "I don't care. He killed my mom." Boom. Yeah. All bets are off. And everyone is now
they're like complete enemies.
He's going for broke.
Do you think that was
he's doing a Zemo right there? He's doing a Zemo.
Yeah,
I don't care anymore.
Small moment where you know, like, do you think Tony Stark realized the irony of he signed on to these accords to, you know, to limit and put guardrails on their power, and he hit that wall of, I don't care, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do.
Yeah, he's like, now I don't want any guardrails. Now I don't care. And even the ramifications are now not an hindrance to him. You know,
that whole scene is heartbreaking considering the friendship that had kind of built up between.
Literally, the heart of his suit when Captain Shield like cuts into. Oh man, that was heartbroken is the right word. Yeah,
literally. Yeah.
And then, you know, as we, you know, come, you know, as we get near the end of the movie, it's I mean, the one thing, other than introducing new characters, there was some movement, but I think this movie, the whole breakup, quote unquote, of the team, was really a setup for Infinity War. At the end, you get the Captain America message that Tony's reading. Is there a Tony Stank? Tony
That was.
Stank.
Yes.
I did write down as one of my notes. This is the best, probably the best Stan Lee cameo of the entire MCU.
I would agree. Yeah.
He had some very good, memorable cameos, but this is the best one.
And then Rhodey says, "Well, that's not going away anytime soon." But then we never hear from it again. Thank you for that. That should have come up in later movies.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody in the background, you should have just heard like a waiter or somebody say, "Call for Tony Stank" or something like that.
Yeah, and it would have
There's
been
still time.
really. Well, the only other thing I want to mention is, since we were talking about the other fights, is I think this had the best motorcycle stunt that I've seen since The Dark Knight, when Bucky grabs the motorcycle as it drives past him and he just jumps on it. That rivals the bat pod in The Dark Knight, when it like kind of goes up against the side of the building, turns around and makes a U-turn on a dime.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing. But this, I don't know. This was also really, really cool. I loved seeing that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always amazed by the stunt ingenuity, especially when they don't have the rails of where they're dealing with superheroes, where they can do more and more amazing things. But
they're not
I always
by physics.
Exactly. And, I always think
that shield doesn't even respond to physics, man.
But I'm thinking
a lot of physics.
In Thunderbolts.
Well, we had that whole discussion with Ant-Man too. So physics is not Marvel's strong.
Well, just really quick in the motorcycle thing, yes, he grabs it with his bionic hand or arm, but that arm is still attached to the rest of his body, which again doesn't have the same rigidity as that metal arm, and it has to react as well. And so you're like, how does that work? At least in Thunderbolts, when he grabs that cable of the tow cable of that Humvee, he at least jams his fist into the pavement so that the arm itself takes the pull. Yeah. Instead of him trying to just stand up, and that would just rip his arm right off from at the socket. So I'm like, when did they decide? I mean, I know it's like the rule of cool, so it's like, let's not think too far about it. But at least
of arms being ripped off the helicopter on the roof.
Yeah, I was about to mention the helicopter.
And that one moment of Captain, he's holding on to the helicopter trying to keep it from going away. And then he grabs the railing, and it was like such a targeted shot to show his bicep flex.
I know that was
the female gaze right there. The female gaze.
I just started cracking up when I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so just like, I don't know.
I did notice
very much a trope.
Let me just say one thing regarding that the bicep thing. I did notice initially, my first note on this movie was this idea that the female gaze kind of fan service in the MCU has increased as the male gaze, in terms of like redesigning female costumes to be a little more sleeves, more pants, things like that, away from the bathing suit / lingerie aesthetic you'd see in the comic books for female costumes. I'm sorry, what?
No, I was going to say,
a bit of a lace-up corset on some of those women. So,
let me just say this:
true, there's still cats.
If it was Henry Cavill pulling the helicopter down, that was all about the male gaze. That would be all about the male gaze, because Henry Cavill,
in terms of men looking at that, going, "That's an ideal I want to strive for,"
let me tell
or
you
that's
this.
just hot.
I heard this story. Someone's like, "Listen,
or both.
I'm as straight as an arrow." But if Henry Cavill wants to tie me down to a bed and whisper the specs of his, if he wants to whisper the specs of his gaming PC to me, who am I to say no?
Or the cavalrine.
Anyway, so we talk about male gaze and female gaze. I think there's,
I think it's a bit muddled at this point, but I'm just saying the I guess the instances where the movie creators and producers of the MCU have taken the opportunities to make a nod directly to the
Capitalize
attractiveness
on-
of the
Yes.
male superheroes and downplayed the straight up physical characteristics of the female characters is interesting. Even in Ultron, where she goes, will Thor be there? Just as this nod that he's this sex symbol,
and I've said this before about the rolling my eyes about the Thor thing, but no, it's that's money making decisions. I only see that as money making.
That's mass
There's
appeal
actually-
decisions.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
actually articles online about the realism of Cap holding down the helicopter. And they said that he would have to be 10 times stronger than a normal person in order to hold that particular helicopter was an Airbus A320, I think they said.
Oh, gosh, somebody actually analyzed all this, like from science.
Yeah.
Like it.
Well,
Yeah.
Somebody does, absolutely.
Apparently, Josh. All right, let's final verdict.
Okay, final.
We'll start with Matthew. Final verdict, Matthew. Captain America, Civil War. What do you think?
Despite my objections to Captain America being wrong, I love this movie. I like I said earlier, I think it feels a little overstuffed. Sorry, I missed the final fight conversation. I think Tony's very much justified in that scene, and I will leave it at that. I know you guys probably already hashed that out.
You missed the final fight?
No. Sorry, that point. Yeah, that
Discussion.
I got a phone call, so I had to step away.
Oh no, we
did
were
you want
talking
to say
about
something?
motorcycle at that point.
No, I think Tony, if it was me in that scenario and I found out that my former best friend killed my parents, I'd be pretty pissed off too. So I think Tony's absolutely justified in that scenario. Maybe not to kill Bucky, but to be pretty pissed off.
But I mean, but you still got to understand that Bucky was not in control of his actions.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point to me. It's because I don't know Bucky. So anyway, I like this movie a lot. I think it's a top 10 MCU. I think I put it in sixth place right now.
I'm still not giving him a number.
I think I think a lot of people would put this in their top 10. It's just really great. Even if it's a little bit overstuffed, and even if there's plot holes, it's just really entertaining. And I like it on this rewatch even now. I do think it might have benefited being called Avengers Civil War, because I see that we have here being Avengers 2.5. It does feel like Avengers 2.5.
Yeah.
So I like what it sets up for the future. I like the new characters it brought in. I think it's a really entertaining movie overall. Despite me being Team Iron Man. So,
Darren, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I really like this one as well. I'm biased more as much as I like a standalone because of the lore and backstory that it introduces and rounds out things. I like an ensemble way more. Yeah. So I'm way partial to more superheroes than less. So if it needs to be a little convoluted in the plot in order to get them in the same place and punching each other, I'm all for it. So I give it a big thumbs up. It is definitely in my top Marvel movies for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Heather?
Really entertaining. I also really like the ensemble movies. And I was excited about the new characters. I kind of had forgotten, like on the rewatch, I'd forgotten how much new stuff came in this movie. And so it was just kind of exciting to like, oh yeah, I remember that. No, I really liked all the fight scenes. I love the debate over kind of a bigger issue, if you want to think of it that way, of, government oversight or not government oversight kind of thing. I like that it, kind of pitted them truly against each other. And you really like, that having to understand where each character is coming from to have the viewpoint that they have in that moment, I think is kind of it's a good direction and a good, I think it makes for a good story with all that. And
yeah. Josh?
Bob? Oh, I was going to say.
Oh, no, I'll go. It's funny because when I first saw it, I'm like, wow, this thing is really awesome. I mean, it's still a good movie. On the rewatch, I saw how contrived all the stuff was. And I know we've kind of brought this up over the last like hour and a half that we talked about this, is The whole Zemo plot and just kind of everything. I felt like everything was just more contrived, and it didn't I don't know. It didn't flow as natural. Not flow as natural, but it came like the plot points were super evident and in your face. Like, oh, we're doing this because we need to do this, this, and this. And not because I was looking at it from, again, I've mentioned this before, not because I'm looking at it the lens of everything we have now and looking back on it and everything else. It's just more of like, gosh, really, it's like everything felt a little forced and it was like, oh, they got to do this in order to do this, just within the movie itself. So, but again, it wasn't a bad movie. I don't know if I don't know where I'd rate it or put it in any type of top 10 or anything, but it was still a good movie.
And for me, as I said right at the very beginning, I love this movie. When I'm doing a rewatch of the entire MCU, I'm always looking forward to this. I still think Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a better Captain America movie. It's still my favorite in the entire MCU. But this is definitely in the top 10. And I love this movie unequivocally, even though every time I watch it, I get annoyed at Zemo's ridiculous plan. But you're right. This movie does bring up a lot of new stuff, and it's followed up by a completely brand new character, which I'm looking forward to talking about too. Go ahead, Matt.
I have one final question, since this caps off the third trilogy in the MCU.
Caps off.
Pun intended, actually. Is this the best trilogy in the MCU?
Would you include the Avengers in that?
No.
Although that's not really a trilogy. That's more of a quadrilogy.
Well, so is Captain America.
So first Avenger, Winter Soldier,
yeah.
and...
But up until this
and
point, was this, and I think even past this, is because a lot of people say Guardians of the Galaxy is the best trilogy in the MCU.
Oh, no.
I would say
This
this
is
is the
No.
best
far
trilogy.
better.
No, I agree with you. I think this is actually the best trilogy.
Captain America is
in terms
definitely
of
the best.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
three movies are excellent.
They're really good.
I think the first
I do
two
think in the
Guardians
deepest,
movies are
the Iron Man trilogy is exciting and flashy, so it's got that going for it. But I think this a little
it's
more
not cohesive, though.
psychological.
yeah.
What
Right.
This
Iron Man?
trilogy is like
This one?
the setup, but the loss of Bucky, the return of Bucky, the semi-redemption of Bucky. It's kind of, and then how
it's a
everybody,
Skywalker saga?
and then how all the heroes around
Barnes
him
saga.
in the universe deal with that. You
Yeah.
know,
What's your name? Bucky Skywalker. Oh wait,
well, he did lose an arm or a limb,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Everyone lost.
that's
Everyone
the
lost
prequel
an arm
obligation.
in phase 2. Don't forget, everyone lost an arm.
Everyone lost an arm.
Or a hand. Yes, because
I used to be-
God as the Empire Strikes Back of all the phases.
I used to be an
So-
Avenger. I used to be an Avenger, but then I took an arrow to the knee.
Yeah, really. So to
Right,
answer your
next-
question, yes, it seems we are in consensus that this leans towards being the best trilogy, first Avenger,
I
Winter
don't even think it
Soldier.
leans toward it. I think it is.
Civil
absolutely
War.
the best-
I would say it is.
best-
It is.
best trilogy, definitely.
Yeah.
And next week we're going to be talking about another new character to the MCU, because next week we're talking about Doctor Strange. Before we leave, I do want to thank everyone. I want to thank Bob, Darren, Heather, and Matthew for talking to me about Captain America: Civil War, and I want to thank everyone who's listening. Please, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, make tomorrow better than yesterday.